Have you ever thought about what it's like to stand at the absolute edge of a continent? Or what about floating in the most remote spot on the entire planet? Well, today we're going on a tour of extremes. We're going to go from the sun-scorched capes of Australia all the way out to a frozen world that, sparked a massive cosmic debate. Let's dive in.
So, what in the world connects all these things? The edge of a continent, a place with no mosquitoes, a dwarf planet? They seem totally random, right? Well, they all push the boundaries of what we think of as normal. These are the outliers, the record holders, the places that totally redefine how we see our planet and, yeah, even the universe. By exploring them, we get a front row seat to the incredible, and sometimes just plain weird, diversity of our world. Okay, our journey kicks off on the massive continent of Australia, a land of just vast distances and some seriously dramatic coastlines. We're heading to the very edges of this place, the points where the land crashes into the sea in the most extreme ways possible. Just look at the sheer scale of this continent. I mean, we are talking about a landmass that stretches over 3,600 kilometers from its northernmost point all the way down to its southernmost tip. It's huge. So let's zoom in on a few of these remarkable spots. First up, we have Cape York, or as everyone calls it, the Tip. Now, this is not a place you just, pop over to for a day trip. Getting here is a full-on pilgrimage for serious off-road adventurers. It's a journey through these wild, untouched landscapes, everything from dense tropical rainforests to these huge dry savannas. All right, let's swing over to the East Coast. Here we find Cape Byron, a spot so important that Captain James Cook himself gave it its name. Its iconic lighthouse has been a beacon for sailors since 1901. And get this, it's one of the most powerful in the entire Southern Hemisphere. Can you just imagine being out there on the dark ocean and seeing that beam of light cutting through the night from 40 kilometers away? Incredible. The westernmost edge of Australia is, well, it's a place of a raw, dramatic beauty. Steep Point is just dominated by the Zoeterp Cliffs, which are actually named after a Dutch ship that tragically wrecked right here way back in 1712. These sheer rock faces just rise straight out of the Indian Ocean, a really formidable and unforgettable coastline. Okay, so from the edges of one continent, we're now going to venture out into the vastness of our planet's oceans, to some of the most unique and, honestly, bizarre locations on Earth. We are leaving the land far, far behind. Just take a second and let that number sink in. 2,688 kilometers. That is the distance to the nearest piece of land from a spot called Point Nemo. It's known as the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. If you were floating right there, you would be further from another human being than anyone else on the entire planet. So, what's actually at Point Nemo? Well, for one, it's a designated graveyard for over 260 old spacecraft. Even the International Space Station is going to end up there eventually. And here's the wild part. Because it's so incredibly remote, the closest people to you are often the astronauts orbiting 400 kilometers straight above your head. No joke. Back in 1997, this super remote location became the source of a global mystery. Scientists picked up this powerful, super low-frequency sound from deep underwater, and they nicknamed it the bloop. For years, people went crazy with speculation. Was it some kind of giant sea monster? A top-secret military experiment? What on earth was it? The truth, as it turns out, was just as awe-inspiring as any sea monster. The bloop was an ice quake, the sound of a colossal iceberg breaking off an Antarctic glacier. Just a powerful natural noise that's a pretty stark reminder of our planet's immense and sometimes violent power. Okay, so from an acoustic mystery, we now turn to a biological one. If you look at a map, you'll see Iceland is kind of nestled between Greenland and Scandinavia. Both of those places are absolutely crawling with mosquitoes in the summer. And yet, Iceland is completely 100% mosquito-free. How is that even possible? It turns out Iceland is basically a mosquito's worst nightmare. First, its weather is famously unpredictable. You get these sudden freezes and thaws that just completely mess up the mosquito's life cycle. Second, the water is just way too cold for their larvae to survive. And even though there's plenty of geothermal heat, those warm spots don't have the stagnant water that mosquitoes need to breed. It's like the perfect storm of factors to keep those pests away. And speaking of water, let's look at a country that has more of it than pretty much anywhere else on Earth. This chart shows the number of large lakes in different countries. And as you can see,
Canada's bar it towers over everyone else. I mean, it is not even close. Canada is in a league of its own. Here's that same idea, but in a single, staggering number: 62%. That's the percentage of all the world's large lakes that are located inside Canada. They were carved out by massive glaciers during the last ice age, and this network of almost 900,000 lakes makes Canada a global reservoir of freshwater. It fundamentally shapes its unique ecosystems. All right, from the watery wonders of our own planet, we now cast our gaze upward to that silent, cratered world that has fascinated humanity for, well, forever: our moon. So when you look up at the moon, you see this world of contrasts, right? You've got the bright, rugged highlands and these dark, smooth plains. Early astronomers, peering through their simple telescopes, called these dark patches Maria, which is Latin for seas, because they literally thought they were looking at oceans. We now know they're actually ancient scars, vast plains of volcanic rock created billions of years ago when huge asteroids slammed into the moon. With no atmosphere to act like a blanket, the moon is a world of absolutely brutal temperature extremes. In the harsh sunlight, the surface can get hot enough to boil water, but as soon as that same spot rotates into the freezing darkness of lunar night, the temperature plummets to a mind-numbing minus 180 degrees Celsius. Just an incredible swing. So how did we get our moon in the first place? Well, the leading theory is as violent as it is spectacular. Picture this: a young, molten Earth about 4.5 billion years ago. Suddenly, a protoplanet the size of Mars, some call it Theia, comes hurtling in and just smashes into our planet. This catastrophic collision blasted a massive cloud of molten rock and debris into orbit, and over millions of years, that debris came together to form the moon we see today. For our final stop, we are traveling to the frozen frontier of the solar system. We're going to a world that has been right at the center of one of the biggest debates in modern astronomy. Let's talk about Pluto. You know, when Pluto was first discovered back in 1930, astronomers thought it might be as big as Earth. But as this timeline shows, our estimates just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The real game changer was discovering its big moon, Charon, in 1978. That allowed for an accurate calculation, and it revealed Pluto was tiny, less than 1% of Earth's mass. So this shrinking size, plus the discovery of other objects out there near it, led to that controversial reclassification in 2006. The International Astronomical Union laid out 3 rules to be a planet. 1, you got to orbit the sun. 2, you have to be round. And 3, you have to have cleared the neighborhood around your orbit. Well, Pluto nails the first 2, but it fails on that third one. But listen, this debate is far from over. Alan Stern, the scientist who led the first ever mission to Pluto, he pushes back hard against that definition. His argument is pretty simple: small planets are planets too. For him and a lot of other planetary scientists, the definition itself is flawed. And for them, Pluto is and always will be the 9th planet. Wow, our tour of extremes has taken us from the sun-scorched edges of a continent all the way to the frozen frontiers of our solar system. It's a journey that really reminds us that our universe is just filled with these incredible, mind-bending places that challenge our definitions and expand our understanding. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other extremes are out there, just waiting for us to find them?